And we are live. And before we go, Boris wanted to know why couldn't both of them use the cabinet to get out?
I forget what exactly the lady said, but there was only one thing that either of them could do to get it. I don't know, it's dumb. The answer to any and all questions at this point is this show is dumb.
Yeah, and we are going to talk about the phenomenal finale.
No.
Yeah.
Didn't even write this episode's title down in my notes. I just wrote the finale or whatever the heck it is, or whoever gives crap. I don't know.
That's what this video is going to be called, so just go with it.
Do you want to start or should I?
You can start, but I'm just going to say this. This show is the most amazing thing I've ever seen, and I mean that in the worst way possible.
We had exactly what we had with the flower episode. Her immediate reaction was to post a video on Facebook of her just speechless over the fact that it was the Weeping Angels. And I'm so glad that you did that, because I didn't even put together how stupid it was that it was the Angels on my own watch of the episode. At that point, I was so out of it that it just washed over me. But no, that may be the single dumbest thing in this show. The Angels are predatory creatures. They're a hunting species. They're not going to be in charge of a shadowy organization. How does that even work?
It's like a tiger runs it, or a bear. I mean, it makes no sense.
Like, okay, we know that they're capable of reason. We know that they understand human speech and are capable of communicating with people. But they, do that to lure people into traps for food. Like, I can see that maybe what Patrick Ness thinks he's doing is that they're, manipulating things long term so that they can have a bigger, food source in the end game. But I don't know, this seems like a fundamental misunderstanding of the Angels as a species, to have them be shadowy, behind the scenes puppet masters. No, they're a hunting animal. They go after their prey and they eat them. They chase people, they kill them, and they feast on their energy. That's what they do. There's no indication that that method suddenly isn't working for them. It was stupid when they had that whole plan in Amy and Rory's goodbye episode, where they're scamming New York, I guess. But even that makes more sense than whatever the heck this is supposed to be. They're getting a bunch of humans to manipulate Quill and a bunch of high school students to some mysterious ends. Just enter the high school and eat everyone. What's your problem?
Yes, this is okay. I like the Amy episode, but at least that kind of makes sense because they're just feeding off the same energy. This, they're not even feeding off energy. They're just trying to take over the world. Apparently,
they only feed off of the people who work for them, I guess.
I only think they do that.
I officially cannot, in good conscience, consider this show canon to Doctor Who anymore. I didn't care either way, but I can't do it now. To me, to everything that we've seen of the angel species in that show.
I'm still speechless over it. We need a Doctor Who enemy. We're just gonna throw them in there, and they just have no idea what's the backstory to them, how they function, or anything. It's
feels like they were we need someone who the fans will recognize to be in charge of the bad guys or whatever. The Daleks have been done too many times. The Cybermen don't really make sense. The Master doesn't really make sense. All that's left is the Angels, and yet out of the four of them, they make the least sense.
Yes, I know. So random. When I saw that, I just started laughing.
I mentioned on the video that is not the dumbest or worst thing about this episode. I guess we should summarize the plot in order to set this up. So the plot of the episode is that the Shadow King guy has come back, even though all of the portals to the worlds were sealed or whatever, and he's just killing everyone. He's killing Ramstad later, but he's just killing everyone. He's trying to kill a set number of people, and he's just going around, and he's going to kill Tanya's brothers also. And the stupidest thing in this episode, maybe the single dumbest thing in this show, is teach me how to fight. Tanya's brothers get saved just before they're about to die by Quill, who fights off the Shadow King momentarily. Tanya is teach me how to fight. And so while the Shadow King is still out there, could be killing people right now for all they know, the two of them sequester themselves into the school auditorium with the Cabinet of Souls and just start training on how to fight right then and there. What are you two doing? You're not going to teach Tanya how to fight in 45 minutes. You don't have more than like an hour. And then it works. It works. She's incapacitating these scary, the most amazing, powerful aliens. What could you possibly have learned in what must have been 30 minutes of the two of you in this room? Why did you decide that now was the most appropriate time to start? Like, okay, you want Quill to start training you how to fight. Fine, that's something that the two of you can do. That can be like your subplot in season 2. Right now, you want to do that this instant.
Like you said, she's built to take down, like, warriors. This is what they do all the time. A 14-year-old girl with 30 minutes of training can take down massive warriors now.
Congratulations, Patrick Ness. You've retroactively made every single conflict involving the Shadowkin ridiculously stupid. Every episode that featured them up to this point, stupid. Backstory, where the Quill and Charlie's people, like, died or whatever, had this long war. How ridiculously incompetent. Single Quill, except for our Quill B, if these guys even stood a chance. How do you write this into your script? I don't understand how you let this happen. Like, the one good episode of this show, Charlie's whole thing in that episode hinges around, I want to murder these guys, but it wouldn't be right to use the cabinet to do it. You wouldn't have to use the cabinet. Just give every human on the planet basic karate training and they could kill them in an instant. It's insane.
Take a karate class and you can defeat a whole army.
A single class, a single karate class, it's the dumbest thing. Maybe the dumbest thing in any Doctor Who related thing. I can't understate how dumb this is.
Oh, God.
Woo!
Oh, God. I told you this show would make us insane if we watched it all the way through.
Like, I've dropped other shows for less dumb things. I haven't watched The Flash in a whole year just because of, like, what I feel are dumb character decisions. This transcends that. If this show ever gets brought back, I hope that its ratings are in, like, the single digits. I don't understand. I don't understand.
Well, they said if this show is being brought back, they will not bring the original creator. What was his name? Patrick whoever?
Patrick Ness. He said he wouldn't want to do it. Didn't read his exact quote, but he basically said he did not want to keep going. Man, quit while you're behind. Because
I would not be surprised at all. He just said that, and they probably fired him behind the scenes.
And I feel bad because he has some decent ideas. At this point, he and Stephen Moffat both, even though Stephen Moffat is still infinitesimally better writer, like, the two of them should not ever be allowed to run series anymore. What they should do is, those are the types of guys that you get to come up with really good episode concepts, and then you get other people to write around those concepts.
I don't know how much Moffat had to, was involved in this show.
Patrick Ness cannot write. I don't want to say he can't write a decent episode of television to save his life, because he wrote one decent episode of television, and that was Detained.
Even that surrounding it had really stupid.
Could argue even only works if you're looking at it in a vacuum.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean that episode takes place in a vacuum. Like, you could make a very solid argument that that isn't even a good episode because its foundation is all of the other terrible episodes.
I don't know how much Moffat was involved. I don't think he was actually involved that much.
I don't bring him up because I think he was involved at all. I think if he was even a little bit involved, then this would at least be, it would be better than it is. I'm just saying, like, he strikes me as what Moffat is, except cranked up to infinity. Like, Moffat, I think, is a good writer who occasionally falters because his ideas are better than his execution. Patrick Ness is a guy who's all ideas and no execution.
Pretty much.
Like, they are guys who you should just sit down, say, give me a one-sentence idea for a story, and you get a much better writer to work with that concept.
I don't know, we had to go through them all, but so far I only think Moffat has kind of bombed his ideas maybe like twice for me, but
Moffat, I suppose, is a totally different thing because even in good episodes, Moffat will have ideas that could have been their own stories or could have been like the crux of entire episodes, and they're like throwaway scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Best Moffat episodes there will be like really good ideas that are relegated to a scene in a really good episode when it's like, oh man, I wish we could have done that as like its own thing instead of a footnote in this story, even if it's really good. Like Patrick Ness will just come up with an idea that's the focus of the episode, but he doesn't know what he's doing, so it comes off I think it's another Mark Gatiss situation. I think Patrick Ness is just a hack who doesn't know what he's doing. Either that or he just shouldn't have been trusted with an entire show. Maybe it's just that it was too much for him. Maybe he's just too wet behind the ears and he should have written Doctor Who episodes under Moffat before he was given his own show.
Boris is saying he has some good novels, apparently. I have not seen any of his other work. I don't think so, unless he, like, wrote a Doctor Who episode, I'm thinking.
As far as I know, he hasn't written a single episode of Doctor Who, but maybe I'm jumping the gun. Maybe he's a decent writer who was not meant to jump straight into running an entire television program.
Yeah. We complain about, like, showrunners, but it is a lot of work. I mean, you have to write, like, most of the stories, come up with...
And he had to write all of the stories, so he's got it even worse than most showrunners.
Oh, wow. I didn't know he wrote every single one. Yeesh.
Maybe he's just working with what he had and had to come up with 8 stories amount of time. Maybe the BBC was pressuring him. I don't want to blame him too much, okay? I retract my previous statements. Mr. Ness, if you're watching this, I don't want you to get offended. I hope you don't feel like I'm attacking you personally. You should not have been made to be in charge of this show by yourself.
Yes.
Like, take a step back. You're not like an idiot who can't write stories. Oh my God, were you not meant to go straight into running a whole show?
No. I'm just gonna keep the camera on Ratchet.
Why not?
I'm freaking out right now.
Ratchet is going to be the symbol of composure while the two of us just have a panic attack over how ridiculous this was. We've only talked about 2 plot points. I mentioned this earlier, too much into Crazyland. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you care that either of the parents that got killed in this episode got killed?
Oh boy, I didn't really care about them, but I did think that was pretty dark and sick for the show to kill 2 parents off.
It was dark and surprising. I only care like maybe a single iota for Rand's dad, and that's only because he seems like a reasonable parent. Mm-hmm. And Tanya's mom I never liked, so I don't really care. I don't know. I don't know how to put into doing wrong. Clearly, both of their deaths have affected them big time, and yet I, as an audience member, just can't be in it.
I felt a little more for Tanya because, I mean, she's an orphan now. That kind of what made me feel like, ew, this is pretty bad. So, I mean, the mom we really didn't get much time with, and the little bit we did, she wasn't that likable.
I probably would have cared more if her brothers died just because, I don't know, like, the biggest impression her mom left on me was in the first episode, and nothing about that first episode works even a little bit, so that includes her.
Yeah.
So...
I actually thought they were going to kill her whole family the way it was going there. I mean, the show just got really... It opens up on such a morbid note. Tell me, Ratchet. I need you.
Yeah. I'm struggling to think if I even would have necessarily cared if April's mom died, because we've spent a lot of time with her. Of all of the parents, she's the one who feels most like a person. Maybe it's just the quality of the show. Maybe it has nothing to do with how well any of the parents are characterized. Maybe it's just I so don't care about this show at this point that no matter who died or what, I would have felt nothing.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the problem.
Like, even when we get to the end and it looks like April's dead, like, intellectually, moment of like, okay, that's a brave move. That's probably one of the better ideas that this show has had. And when it looks like she's dead and Charlie is going to die, I'm like, oh wow, okay. The 2 most quote-unquote nice characters in the show, we might kill both of them. That feels like a real brave move. And then we chicken out with both of them. The running theme in things that disappoint me now is, looks like we're going to do something cool. We chicken out.
How how did she become a warrior or get into its body? I don't understand.
Hey, first of all, the heart thing never made sense, and you guys never attempted even to explain it. Finale, and we're still like doing throwaway lines like our hearts are connected, and I still don't know what that means. If you don't know what that means, how is the audience supposed to care?
Yes, I know. And the last episode.
And now, just because you couldn't be bothered to explain it, you can just use it to excuse or justify whatever the heck you want. So now they're in each other's bodies. How? How? And how do you fix it? Because even if the show gets a second season, I don't for a second buy that it has the balls to keep her in that body for any extended period of time. If season 2 happens, and I bet you it won't happen, how much do you want to bet that in the unlikely event we get season 2, she's only in that body for maybe an episode?
Most likely. I wonder what Ram is going to think of that. Is he still going to love her? I think there's probably going to be some melodrama with that. Like, okay, he doesn't love her anymore.
How? How? And how do you fix it? Because for melodrama right now, she's in a different body. Ram and Tanya's parents are dead. Ram's leg's still messed up. He's still not over that. Tanya's brothers are who knows where, just genocided, like have his death wish. He's probably going to hold it against Quill, like he spends the whole season going, Quill, you gotta protect me, Quill, you gotta protect me. And now the one time Quill saves his life, he's probably gonna hold it against her because he actually wanted to die. There's too much going on going into next season.
Yeah.
Like,
for them
I don't...
For them to end it like this, I don't know. It's kind of crazy way to end it, but I think that kind of goes with the show.
We open this episode with the group is kind of split up and haven't been talking to each other for a long time. And now the only way I could see that you would open a second season is that again. Like it's just the beginning of this episode again, where everyone isn't talking to each other.
Yeah.
Quill is going to die because she's pregnant.
Oh yeah, we forgot about that.
Then she's going to die.
I think they will find a way around that.
But if they did, you're right, they wouldn't have the balls to kill her either because she's like the only character people like. This show is insane. Crazy person. I cannot state this enough. This show for crazy people. Oh,
it's like somebody on drugs made it.
Never before in my life have I more wanted to find someone who likes a thing, like ask them, why do you like this? I didn't have this with Batman v Superman. I don't have this with other shows that I dislike. Anything I've ever watched, I want to find someone who likes Class and ask them, what do you see in this show?
Maybe because it's just so batshit crazy.
Be like the most CW teenage audience ever. You have to be like, I don't care about anything but melodrama.
Melodrama.
That has to be it.
And just things happening on screen. Like, and you have to be just enjoy sad melodrama.
You just have to be in that demographic that immediately accepts it when people don't act like real people. Like ever. Not ever in this show, except for Detained. Does anyone act like a real person? I can't. This is going to haunt me forever. This show.
Years down the road, we will be telling our children about this show.
I hate to keep flip-flopping on Patrick Ness as a writer in and of himself, but you don't get off completely scot-free. Like, running a show, it's hard. Coming up with 8 stories that you then have to make into a whole production, it's difficult. But when all of your workarounds, all of them, come down to don't question it or people aren't real people, every single shortcut in this show to make the stories work is one of 2 things. It's don't question it, it's just a real stupid idea, or people make decisions that don't make any sense and that no human being would actually make. And that is the sign of laziness.
Yes.
To run a show and there's not being able to write human beings.
Yes. It's like he wrote every character as an alien or a brat.
Yeah, it's just When one line of dialogue doesn't immediately follow from the previous line of dialogue, I don't understand how you let that happen. If you can't write a great story, fine. Even Mark Gatiss at least writes moment to moment fine. Mark Gatiss's stories, I don't think most of them are any good. Take a single scene Mark Gatiss story, and usually it makes sense. Characters say things that make sense as a response to what was said to them. That doesn't happen often enough, Joe.
It's bad.
Ooh. Is there a single good thing in this episode, even though it's incredibly undermined by the whole teach me how to fight thing, and where we end up with Tanya and Quill? Like, of all the characters that I expected would be sort of an interesting dynamic and like actually come to respect each other and be almost friends by the end of the show, it was not those two to make it seem natural in the moment. I just wish that we didn't make it stupid by having her magically become a great fighter in 5 seconds and deciding to do that.
Yes, I give you that. Only thing I like in the as far as the relationships go is like Charlie and his boyfriend, and that's it.
The one long-term relationship on this show that's worked.
Yes.
Charlie and Quill hasn't worked. April and Ram hasn't worked. Tanya and anyone hasn't worked until Quill's last episode. Charlie and Matthias is the only relationship that feels like it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get all of the moments with Tanya and Quill in this episode where it's just the two of them talking to each other. That's great. That stuff's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But then we ruin it with the whole fighting thing, and I feel like I've said all I can say about this episode and this show. But even if it gets a second season, I don't think there's anything that we could add by doing more live streams. This is it. This live stream will be the end of this show. If I ever want to talk about this show with anyone, I won't talk about it. I'll just send them to these videos. As soon as we press over on this stream, I'm never acknowledging the show again. Unless I'm listening to the theme song because I really like the theme song. Outside of that, I'm going to pretend that this show doesn't exist. That's it. It's over. Class? What class? It never happened.
It was just a really strange dream that we all had, or that fan fiction.
Thank you for joining me on this weeks of complete insanity meets spiral into complete madness in the most appropriate facial expression. That's it. I'm done. Nothing more to add. Any final thoughts from you?
No. I'm just amazed by something like this got created.
How was this allowed to happen?
So yeah, class. The traumatizing experience that every Doctor Who fan should watch at least once just to say they did it.
Yeah, yep. Well, or maybe not, you know. You could just not.
It has to be seen, Nicholas.
Seen to be believed, not see it and also not believe it. You could just forget it happened.
Yes, it's one of those things that you have to watch at least once just to say, wow. And Boris said, how could we as a species let this happen?
I'm done. Bye. Forever.